Remains of jetty in Pedro Bay. The main shipping place for the estates in the Pedro Valley was from this jetty on the western side of Pedro Bay. Canoes came alongside and loaded estates produced such as sugar, limes, coffee, cocoa, and cassava, and carried it all out to large ships that were anchored in the bay. Manticore Bay. The Manticore Point, now also called Old People Beach, has a small pool protected from the ocean waves where elderly people traditionally come to bathe. Also located here are the ancient volcanic boulders upon which the indigenous people of the Walkikubuli used to make their stone tools by sharpening them on the rocks. The indentations where this took place can still be seen. The name Manticore comes from the fact that an early French settler called Louis Thibault once owned the land around this point. His widow, who lived a long time on the land, was known as Ma Thibault, and eventually in the English Creole of the area, the pronunciation became Matopo and then Mantipo.
Catholic Church. This Catholic church was once a cinema, though the structure has changed significantly. Marigot was unusual to have its own cinema. No other village had one, and there was only the Carib Cinema in Roseau. Reels of films were brought from Roseau and then played on a projector. People came from across the district to see these movies. In 1953, a large demonstration of about 3,000 protesters gathered in front of the cinema to demand of the governor the completion of the Trans-Insular Road to Roseau so that the north of Dominica could be connected to the south. The road was eventually completed in 1956. Methodist Zion Church. The Methodist Zion Church was established here in 1877 and the present building constructed in 1934. It is a sturdy building made totally of cast concrete and heavy pitch pine, which has stood the test of time. Because of the many British estates in the area, the people were much more influenced by English culture than the rest of Dominica, which was more influenced by French. Added to that, Dominica became a unit of the Leeward Islands colony in 1871 with its headquarters in St. John's, Antigua. From that time, a lot of immigrant workers came to this part of Dominica from Antigua, Montserrat, and St. Kitts. Already, the English Protestant churches such as the Methodists and the Anglicans were established here, and these religions were strengthened by the new arrivals, the Zion Methodists.
The Old Hospital. The Marigot Cottage Hospital was opened in 1929 to serve the northeastern district. A Canadian benefactor, T.B. McClody, donated money for purchasing the land and for constructing the building. The hospital itself cost £500 and included the cost of building the doctor's residence. It had only 6 beds and was served by a resident doctor and a dispenser. In 1977, an ambitious project was launched to construct a new hospital for Marigot to replace the old 6-bed hospital with a 25-bed hospital. A variety of funding was found to complete this hospital that was estimated to cost over $400,000, including the government self-help scheme, Geese Industries, Dudley Frank, Mrs. Annika Thomas, the Catholic Fund for Overseas Development, among others. The new hospital was finally opened in 1981. The Doctor's Residence. The Doctor's Residence is an historic house of traditional design built of pitch pine and local woods. The doctors who served here before the motorable road was completed to Roseau stayed in Marigot for months at a time without much communication with the capital. Therefore, had to have all the amenities available for themselves and their families. Among those doctors who live here were Dr. Joint, Dr. James Scott Robinson, Dr. Basteria, Dr. R.F. Armour, Dr. Billy Green, Dr. Peter Bellot, Dr. Mayers, and Dr. Robert Naziro. The cannon. The cannon that is mounted in the grounds of the hospital and doctor's residence dates from the 1770s, and it was originally one of 3 cannons that guarded the entrance of the Marigot Harbor. A small fort was built on the west side of the bay to protect the port from being attacked by the French. One of these cannons was brought up to this site while the other 2 were removed in the 1980s and now lie at Pickard Portsmouth.
Old shingle houses. This is one of the oldest houses at West Marigot. Former Prime Minister Edison James was born here. It belongs to the family of Glenford Andrew and is an example of the style of houses constructed up to the 1950s. Most of the material came from timber in the forest nearby, and wooden pegs held the main beams together. Different parts of the structure were constructed with woods best suited to their use. The roofs were steeply sloping for coolness inside, but also so that the rain could run quickly off the wooden shingles. The wooden shutters protected the building from sudden storms before the days of hurricane warnings. These houses were constructed on stilts to keep them away from the damp and so that the air could circulate freely underneath and keep the building cool. Oldest operational Woodstone Bakery. In the days before imported food and motorable contact with Roseau, Marigot had to produce all of its various foodstuffs itself, and so there are the remains of several stone ovens and cassava processing plants. The ovens were made of volcanic stone held together with limestone mortar made of la chaux coral, which was burnt in a pit to form powder, then mixed with sand and molasses to form an early type of concrete. This bakery was built in 1943 and was called Subi Bakery and was owned by Mabel Collar. It is now owned by MacLeod Alton Bristol. He bakes breads and coconut cake